So Bruce Willis's deadliest foe in his breakout role, Die Hard, was glass, and now in his latest film, his deadliest foe was glass.
Glass? Who gives a shit about glass?
I guess you could say that Willis's career has finally come full circle. Hi, I'm Danny Quinn, and welcome to another episode of First Impressions. On today's episode, Bruce Willis returns as the unbreakable superhero David Dunn as he goes up against James McAvoy's split personality sociopath and Samuel L. Jackson's scheming Mr. Glass. The movie takes place almost immediately after the events of Split, as Kevin Wendell Crumb, played by James McAvoy, is on the loose, and hot on his trail is David Dunn, played by Bruce Willis. After a confrontation, both men are captured and taken to a mental hospital overseen by Dr. Ellie Staple, played by Sarah Paulson. Now Dunn must escape and defeat the Beast, who has allied himself up with Dunn's old enemy, Mr. Glass, played by Samuel L. Jackson, who still has a few schemes in store for both Dunn and the enemy that he pursues. So you might recall that my first review ever on YouTube was of M. Night Shyamalan's Split, a fantastically suspenseful and unnerving horror film with excellent performances, strong writing and direction, and it really marked a very solid return to form for M. Night Shyamalan after his fair share of duds. And while I do think my review for it is hideously dated looking back on it, I still largely stand by my opinion of the film. I still think it's a very strong, unnerving, and very entertaining horror film that still stands as one of the best films that 2017 had to offer, which, considering just how many great films actually came out that year, is really saying something. And naturally, when I heard that Shyamalan was going to be building upon the shock ending where we saw Bruce Willis briefly reprising his role from Unbreakable. Yes, I know I'm spoiling the ending to Split, but it's kind of common knowledge if you're going into this film, since he's all over the posters for Glass, and making a follow-up to both films, you can bet your bottom dollar that I was hyped. Split was an amazing film, and Unbreakable is easily my favourite Shyamalan film to date. And I was definitely looking forward to seeing David Dunn go up against Kevin Wendell Crumb. But after seeing Glass, the epic conclusion to M. Night Shyamalan's superhero trilogy, I was honestly left feeling very disappointed by it, unfortunately. Real talk. I'm having some issues with this movie. I really do have quite a few issues with this film. And it's not like I'm the only one that's having issues with this film too, because it does seem to be a really polarizing movie. People either seem to love it or hate it, and I'm just sort of smack dab in the middle. There's a lot I liked about it and a lot I didn't like about it. It's a real mixed bag of a film as far as I'm concerned. It's definitely not a complete dud. There's definitely quite a few highlights to the film. For one, the cast is all excellent. James McAvoy is still as engaging and intense as ever, reprising his role as Kevin Wendell Crumb. Samuel L. Jackson is absolutely fantastic as the title character, and this might seem like something of a backhanded compliment, but this is easily one of Bruce Willis's strongest performances in years. Like, legit, it actually seems like he gives a shit here. And I don't think I've seen him this good in a movie since, well, perhaps Looper? Indeed, the film, I think, does start out quite strong, as we build up to this big confrontation between Dunn and Crumb in this warehouse, and the initial showdown between the two is genuinely very entertaining. It's a pretty intense and violent fight, and I think everything up until that point is quite good. But then once we get to the mental hospital, the film slowly starts to go downhill. This is when we're introduced to Sarah Paulson as Dr. Ellie Staple, the psychiatrist who specialises in delusions of grandeur, and she tries to convince Dunn, Crumb and Price that they don't actually have superpowers, they're just normal everyday people, almost as if she was carrying out some gaslighting technique. It's an interesting idea and I think it does offer a lot of potential. In fact, the scene where the three main characters meet for the first time around the halfway point is genuinely great. It's a very entertaining, it's a very unnerving and suspenseful scene, but the problem is that the film just spends so much damn time in this mental hospital. I'm not exaggerating when I say more than half of the running time is spent in this goddamn mental hospital. And it spends so much time on this subplot with Sarah Paulson that it just starts to get very repetitive and tedious. And yeah, I get it, Split was largely set in one location, but that movie at least had a constant sense of momentum, a constant sense of tension and danger and urgency. Whereas in Glass, the whole mental hospital setting just kills any remaining pacing stone dead in its tracks and just shatters any momentum the film may have had up until that point. Easily one of the main selling points of this movie is seeing the main characters of Split and Unbreakable go up against each other. Seeing David Dunn go up against his physical equivalent, and seeing this older veteran hero going up against this younger, more nubile foe. And I think there's definitely a lot of potential to be had there, especially since one of the most interesting things about the previous two films was the relationship between the hero and villain, or the protagonist and antagonist. Whether it be how Willis and Jackson are on the complete opposite ends of the physical spectrum in Unbreakable, with Willis being the unbreakable superhero to Jackson's unbreakable, delicate masterminds, or maybe even Anya Taylor-Joy and James McAvoy's characters in Split being united through their own trauma and pain. And yet, there's just not that much in the way of actual on-screen interactions between Willis and McAvoy throughout the film. There's barely any scenes where they talk or interact with each other outside of the odd fight scene. It might seem like something of a nitpick, but I thought that was a real missed opportunity. I think there could have been a couple of scenes in the hospital with Dunn trying to reach out to Kevin, or one of his many differing personalities, to make that hero-villain relationship all the more compelling. It's also weird seeing how they handle the character of Elijah Price in this film. He was easily one of the most interesting characters in Unbreakable, as this person who's been cursed with very fragile and delicate bones that can easily break. In fact, whenever he was born, his arms and legs were broken as he came out of the womb. And that sense of pain and loss is something that very much links him with Kevin, as the two are both linked by pain in their own ways. So the rapport between the two is genuinely quite interesting, and yet, for much of the first half of the movie, Jackson does virtually nothing. Nothing whatsoever. He doesn't say anything, he doesn't do anything, he just sort of sits around in his wheelchair for much of the movie. It's just a real waste of the character, and what makes it worse is that he's the title character of the film. I feel like he should be a very important, overarching presence in the film, and he just isn't quite there, unfortunately. Shyamalan also brings back some of the supporting characters from the previous films, including Elijah's mother, played by Charlene Woodard, and David's son Joseph, played by Spencer Tree Clark from Unbreakable, as well as Anya Taylor-Joy's Casey Cook from Split. And there is something interesting about the fact that they're all characters with a distinct relationship to the main characters in this film. It's cool to see these characters interacting with each other, although I really wish Anya Taylor-Joy had more to do in this film beyond just being some kind of a morality pet to Kevin, and she's largely wasted in this film besides that. But what really makes this movie so underwhelming for me, and what will really make or break the movie for most people, is its ending. It's very much in the traditional Shyamalan sense, where he tries to include a surprise plot twist at the end. I mean, he's pretty infamous for his twist endings at this point, which are normally either really good or really bad. And unfortunately, the big twist to this film, it's not very good at all. I can't exactly go too in depth about it without getting into spoilers, but it really feels like Shyamalan is reverting back to some bad habits and introducing random nonsensical ideas out of nowhere. And what's worse is that the way the film ends just feels really, really, really cheap. The whole movie spent a lot of time building up to this big showdown between Willis and McAvoy, all while Mr. Glass is concocting this big scheme in the background. And then the film just goes in a completely different direction than it was setting up beforehand, which I get what Shyamalan was maybe trying to do. He's possibly trying to subvert the audience's expectations, but it really doesn't work, unfortunately. In fact, I'd even go as far as to say that this might honestly be one of the worst endings that Shyamalan has ever written. Which, considering how some of his other movies have ended, is really, really saying something. Look, Glass isn't an outright awful film. In fact, for most of its running time, I'd say it's a fairly decent, if not slightly underwhelming conclusion to his superhero movie trilogy. But good god, that ending just really pissed me off in a big way. It's certainly not the worst thing Shyamalan has ever done, but it's very frustrating. It's frustrating in the same way that Signs is frustrating. It's frustrating in the same way that The Village is frustrating. And what's worse is that it's a film that really has the potential to be good, and it gets so much right. The performances are fantastic, Shyamalan's direction is spot on, there's some really fun set pieces, and while it is a watchable film at the very least, it is still a very underwhelming and uneven conclusion to this trilogy of films that Shyamalan has been concocting. And after all is said and done, I'm going to give Glass a very strong 5 out of 10. I was thinking about giving it a 6 out of 10, but that ending just really soured my experience watching the film, and it did knock the film back down to a 5 out of 10 for me. Would I recommend seeing it? I'm not sure. The most I can really say is just give it a shot. You might like it, you might not. There's no knowing how you're going to feel about this movie without actually seeing it. But after seeing Glass, I can't help but feel a little bit nervous about what Shyamalan is going to be doing next. I really hope this was just nothing more than a slight misstep and that Shyamalan will get back on his feet soon. Fingers crossed, man, I'm really rooting for you. So Glass, have you seen it yet? If so, what did you think of it? Did you like it? Did you not like it? What did you like about it? What did you not like about it? Let me know down in the comments below. Thank you once again for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, feel free to leave a like, leave a comment, maybe even subscribe to my channel while you're at it. If there's anything I can do to improve my presentation, do let me know. I'm always happy to hear feedback as long as it's somewhat constructive. If you want to follow me on social media or support me on Patreon, links below down in the description. And until next time, I'm Danny Quinn. I hope you have a pleasant evening, and don't forget to stay golden.